We're now live. Hey everyone. Good morning. Zoe here. I'm so excited because I've got. But today, I really, if you're on, we're gonna do a little AMA. Ask me anything. But I'm really just gonna tell some stories. I feel like Scheherazade with horses. And Mackenzie's got some questions. She's behind the camera today with her skills. And, people that have been here in the past, people that are talking about being here, like why horses, what is this about, who's Jen, what's that, Jen, where did it come from? Questions. People are really curious about what this is, and it's way more than riding. It's way more than just coming out into the field and making a noise like a carrot and expecting to be healed and empowered, right? This is more and I hesitate to say this because Tony Robbins doesn't resonate with everyone, but it's where it started. Is like when I went to my first Tony Robbins experience, I've been involved with horses and natural horsemanship for several years already. And I said, oh my God, what he's doing with people, I'm doing with horses. It's very similar. It's about developing the bond. It's about really deep communication. And my mentor in horses always said love, language, and leadership in equal doses. Now, I disagree with that slightly. I think that it should be like love, 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 and then leadership and language, right? You have to have all three, but the love has to come first. So that's really what more about what this is personal development. And horses just happen to be the vehicle. And you can honestly say, like, why horses? Well, you go take the bucket away from the monster. We have a little miniature horse. Her name is Tuesday, and she's in Maverick's stall trying to get that one little nugget of grain that he might have missed. So they all have their own different and interesting personalities, which is super important to understand when you are looking at like who you're dealing with, who are the people in your neighborhood. And like I have my guy Trace here, he is seemingly, very chill. We jokingly call him 420. He's an old soul, but he really saved my life. And I don't mean that metaphorically. I mean that actually. He goes, are you really? Yeah, I love you too, buddy. And it was in a very dark time of my life where I was going through a very devastating divorce that left me in hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt and homeless and living with my personal assistant. So just imagine this, like it is, it's one of those rags to riches in reverse stories. It was like I'm a bad country song where, I woke up to a Facebook message to discover that what my ex-husband was doing with money was not legal. He's like a smaller version of Bernie Madoff, if you will. Now, I'm not here to disparage him. He had his reasons for doing what he did, and I have no ill will towards him. And Tracy said, I'm out of here. I'm not going to hear this story again, which I don't blame him because it's not a story I want to tell. But the reason I do is so you can understand that I didn't grow up with a silver spoon in my mouth I don't have a trust fund or, a husband or like, I don't have any of those things. I don't have a job. I actually started this whole thing when I was in a lot of debt and homeless. And so imagine like having the person that was running your errands and doing your laundry and like helping you, providing you with a place to live. Because I went back to waitressing and I moved in with my former personal assistant. And it was a very large slice of humble pie when that happened. And I put myself in a position where I felt very depressed and I was very, very isolated. I felt very alone. I didn't know what I was doing. All I knew is that I didn't have any place to live. I didn't have any money. And the only thing I'd done in the last 20 years of my life is wait tables. Now, there's nothing wrong with waiting at tables. In fact, I love it. I'm good at it and I love it. You can tell that I'm like one of those people that always is like, hey, can I, but I love to look for, anticipate what other people's needs are and kind of over deliver. We're at the restaurant where they don't have root beer. I'm like hauling across the street to grab root beer, for the guest if they're in those kind of circumstances. And it really put me in a position to understand that I'm a server. I'm a server and I'm a servant. And I'm a servant of these horses, even when they're snarky like he just was, and I'm a servant of people like you. And I know that, like a lot of us, we have felt isolated and alone, especially during COVID and especially during any kind of transition or shift in our life. And there's five major areas where you have this level of transition that can create or spark a trauma. And it's when you move geographically, which I've done so many times. I just keep moving boxes. When you get divorced or get married, which was happening, I was getting divorced. And when you experience a death, which I had just experienced. One of my miniature horses had been kicked to death by two other miniature horses, and I had to make a very, very tough call on the operating table, losing my beautiful little mini. It was just like Trace, white with blue eyes, and that was a tough. So lost, and then shortly after that, I lost my brother to a drug overdose. So divorce and moving, and the next one is if you change careers or transition from one area of career to another. And then the last one is a birth or a death, right? So you have those things where if you're moving, getting divorced, you're changing jobs, you're having a baby or losing a life. It's just there's so many things what you look at that were all happening at once. And it was almost like how much of an overachiever can I be, and how much can I go through at one time and get through? And it wasn't easy. And I ended up doing a lot of self-destructive behavior. I was cutting myself. I was self-medicating. I was having night terrors. I didn't even know what a night terror was until I experienced them. And it's very challenging to wake up in the middle of the night and not be able to get out of bed to go to the bathroom. That like you're so afraid of what could possibly happen if you made any move at all. Like no move was the right move. The only move that I made was to get up and go to work so I could pay my bills. And then I would go right back to bed because I could not. And then I would go out and see my horse. And that's what happened. And this was several years ago. And since then I have developed these programs, the programs that saved me and people like me that were going through a tough time. And you don't have to be going through some awful tragedy to get the benefits of what you can experience with a horse outside of, going on a trail ride or just hopping on and messing around. Because the more I started to share this with people, the more I realized, whoa, this isn't just for me. And then after I lost my brother, I said, oh my gosh, there's an entire group of people, and then multiple groups of people. And then my eyes really got opened to who I could help and how I could serve at a deeper level. And I don't know about you, but anybody here have anyone that they love and care about that's in the military? Anybody in their life that's suffering from addiction or has lost a job or facing some kind of struggle? Does anybody here want more for themselves, even if they have everything that they seemingly want, but they want more? They know that they're meant for more. You know that there's something inside you that's burning that you can't quite figure out, but it's inside you and you know it has to come out. Do you have a story worth telling? We all have a story worth telling. We all have the opportunity, and that needs to be heard. Expression is growth, suppression is death. And that's what was happening. I felt so suppressed, I could barely move. And I got to the point where I had to figure out something or I wasn't going to make it. And the one thing that helped me get through that was an individual that didn't criticize me, that was one of the best listeners I've ever encountered, and didn't judge me for anything that I was doing in my life. I don't know about you, but do you have somebody like that in your life that was only there to understand you and support you and just be a mirror to how you're showing up? Well, I know it might sound a little crazy, but that was Trace, the horse that just went by. He's like, I'm out of here. I've heard the story, Mom, because he did. He saved my life. And when I'm out there with him and where it's still, and I can hear the birds and I can hear the insects and I can hear his heartbeat, it shifts you. It shifts your energy. It shifts the way you look at life. It shifts the way you look at yourself. It shifts the way you look at the people that you love and care about, the people that you work with. If you have a job, you go to work, you have somebody at your office, I guarantee you that should be on the show, The Office. We all have our Dwights, right? We all have those people that we don't really resonate with, but that we have to deal with. Your kids' teachers, your boss, your coworker, your siblings. Oh, let's talk about family, right? And that was really what was a hard time, because after I went home to visit my family, it was a surprise. Didn't tell anybody I was going to come, and it was 2 days before Christmas. And my mom called me, and I hadn't spoken to her in a long time. And so I was like, well, why is she calling? She can't know that I'm coming. I was going to surprise everyone. And when I answered the phone, she said, your brother's dead. And I was like, oh my God, so your family does messed up stuff. Everybody's got family. And you don't choose your family the way that you choose your friends or the people, if you're lucky enough to be an entrepreneur like me, I choose who I engage with, right? But that comes at a cost too. Because the saying isn't blood is thicker than water, meaning my family that I grew up with, the actual saying is the blood of my brethren that fought alongside me is thicker than the water of the womb. And I look for people in my life that I want to build my relationships with because I don't know about you, but I don't think you have more hours in a day than anyone else. We all seem to think that like we don't have enough time, we don't have enough time. That's the great equalizer. And to think that we have plenty of time or not enough time just puts us in a situation where we're not living in the present moment. It's either dragging us back to the past where we look at, that's why I don't tell these stories very often anymore, because that's my past. That's what happened. And what I learned from it is the things that I teach in my programs here. And it's the things that I have over the last 20 years working with these beautiful animals, had an opportunity to share with people like yourself who want more, who are tired of suffering, who are tired of attracting the same narcissistic boyfriend or the same crazy girlfriend, or tired of having to deal with the boss that they don't understand, like, or want to work for anymore. And you just can't keep quitting your job. You got to figure these things out. And that's what I realized I had to do too. And so I had Trace, and I didn't even have Dante at the time. My ex-husband had taken over the care of Dante, and so a great story about how I got him back and how he was being treated, and how now I have to remind Dante, I'm not going anywhere. I don't, no abandonment with you anymore. And connecting with these beautiful horses in a way that helps me understand who I am. And it's a question we don't ask enough. Oprah, Deepak, Eckhart Tolle, Michael Singer, Warren Buffett, I mean, I could go on and on about the list of thought leaders, about the a list of people that actually influence the world. And the number one question they answer is, who am I? Even Oprah said it. She said, I always aspired to be like Barbara Walters until I realized I could be a better Oprah Winfrey than I could ever be a Barbara. And coming back to that centered self and knowing how important it is to know who you are and ask yourself that question, who am I? And standing in that truth from a loving space and standing in that truth in a way that you can serve without cutting your fingers off quarter inch at a time. And if you believe that you need to sacrifice yourself for others, you're putting yourself in a position to do just that. And there's only so much of you. As deep as you are, and as unbelievable as your soul is, you cannot pour from an empty cup. What do they say? Serve from your saucer, right? And understanding who you are is one of the most empowering things you can ever discover about you in life. And that's what these horses give you an opportunity to do, is take a look in a mirror that does not reflect with ego. Horses don't have egos. They have huge hearts, and they'll reflect to you a piece of who you are. Xenogen is love and an opportunity to have self-discovery, an opportunity to play and understand horses at a deeper level outside of their physical capabilities. I don't care how fast these guys can run or how high they can jump. I care what they can do for people like you, for the people like you out there that want more for their life. And Mackenzie wrote this great poem about the little girl sitting on Santa Claus's lap. Like, why did we give up on our dream? What story did we believe that someone told us that isn't even our belief system, that said we should go over here and do what we're told and do what's expected of us, rather than going over here and realizing what we could do? I love David Goggins. He said something really powerful for me, and it reminds me, It's a thorn in my side, but it's so true. When you feel like you're at your max, you're really only at about 40%. And there's a scientific reason for that. It's because we want to make sure that if we're running from T-Rex, that if we don't want to deplete all of our energy running from that one, because we might come across another one or another one or another one. And so we live in that high beta state, but we don't ever come back to homeostasis. So we stop at that 40% when we got that much more left in us. And when you go to that level and you don't leave anything on the field, you can come back to homeostasis because you have no other choice. And it puts you in a place of faith and surrender. I just moved here to a new, beautiful facility, and we're starting to do things on site and running programs, in person and virtually, and doing videos like these and talking to people and sharing and growing. I'm so excited, right? But I couldn't have done that had I not surrendered my need to control everything and to have faith, because faith is energy that is directed, is excitement that is directed. And there's not that much difference between the energy of excitement and the energy of fear. They both drive you. One's just chaos and one is just focused. And when I got so focused about who I was serving and why I was serving them, I could go, I trust God. And so I can have this level of love for every person like you that wants to take one of my courses or come and do one of my programs or just contribute to the cause of what we're trying to do here, because the bigger, deeper mission is to help as many people as possible through the spirit of horses and stop the horses from being shipped to slaughter for human consumption. Yes, you heard me right. That happens. It's a thing. And so when we can come out here and experience these animals that helped build our civilizations, they fought our wars, they plowed our fields, they carried our families, and you put themselves in a position to experience them in a new way, because most of us don't have access to horses. Only about 9% of the population has access to a horse. But I'm making it available to you, to people just like you who did sit on Santa's lap and wish for that pony, who did have a dream inside them that they wish they could tap back into and achieve, no matter how old you are. Did you know Christian Dior did not start designing clothes until he was 50? 50, right? I've been doing this for 10 years. And can you imagine not even getting started till you're 50? Alan Rickman, Professor Snape, Rickman, didn't start acting till he was 42. And I could go on and on. Grandma Moses didn't start painting until she was in her 80s. Colonel Sanders was still sleeping in his car till he was almost 60. So it's never too late to tap back into the idea that your dream matters and that you have something worth saying that's inside you. And to have that emerge, I call them an emergence. It is an emergence. It's a blooming of something that's been inside you, and it comes out with these horses. And the horse that chooses you for the time that you're here, whether you come and do things virtually to taste it and test it and try it out, or you come here physically and experience this in this beautiful space in South Florida, the horse will tell you the truth, because the horses know the way home. They know the way home to your heart. They know how to align you to your soul and then allow an emergence of who you truly are, so you can stand in your truth, live a more empowered life, and make decisions that get you the things that you want by becoming who you truly are. That's the power of horses. And it's deep and it's important and it needs to be heard and understood. Now you see all my reels and my shorts and my fun stories. We're always doing something fun, cool, and crazy down here, because growth does not have to be painful. You don't go buy a rose and go, oh, I'm blooming. It just blooms. It doesn't have to be painful. The only reason it's painful is because we are, like the hermit crab, attached to the old shell that no longer fits us. And we're afraid of the great big world out there that we need to go to in order to find the next shell. Or they say when one door closes, another one opens, but it sure as hell in the hallway doesn't have to be that way. So if you're interested in and you love horses, or even if you're just curious about horses, I want to reach out, please do. I'd love to hear from you. All of my horses are rescues or have had some sort of trauma themselves. And the empathy, compassion, and love that flows through this place, through the horses and what we can do here and help you understand who you are, to have better conversations with your kid's teacher, to have a better relationship at work, to have a better sex with your man or woman or whatever. It all comes up here. And what you take from this is what you bring into it, which is you, your beautiful self, and the soul that's within you that is ready to shine. So I'd love to hear from you. And you know how I end all of my videos, if you've watched anything about me, believe in yourself. It will change your life. Thanks for tuning in, guys. I hope this has been powerful, and stay tuned. Always more to come here at Zennurgen.